Reducing my phone time. These strategies are helping me reduce my own phone time. First, stating the assumption. I try to do all of the non-productive work on one device, which is my phone, using behavioral psychology, i.e. conditioning, to create ideally the following associations: computer, work mode; phone 1, social, looking up new, not very useful things; messaging, camera. And I do have a second phone, which I call phone 2, which acts mostly as my video camera and to take thumbnails, is usually plugged in on my desk. Then I mostly try to use nudging, making useful activities easier and more enjoyable, and making long-term unuseful activities harder. Reducing phone 1 time, therefore, more or less directly correlates to wasting less time and spending more time in work mode. This is intended as such. In addition, I now use the following strategies to reduce my main phone or phone 1 screen time. Make phone usage less necessary. This could mean avoiding standalone phone-bound services and apps. Using a service on a phone should be an option, not a necessity. Example: Samsung Health is phone-bound, does not have apps on any other platforms. Windows Web, Garmin does, Strava does. Using a web app blocker. Despite privacy concerns, usually you allow these services to read and alter everything on screen. Services like a blog site allow you to block websites, categories of websites, content, but also apps you have installed on your phone. Now, there are still some workarounds, and at least on my now already quite aged Galaxy S10, it often takes a split second or second and even allows you to see the website to block an app or site upon opening it. Unfortunately, you can also disable block site by disabling the required accessibility in settings. I found that blocking settings helps reduce this, again with block site. In addition to constant blocking, you can now block with tested up to 20 seemingly possible individual time windows, basically using it as a time switch. I have it set up usually to have some sites, WhatsApp, etc. unblocked from 9 to 11 p.m. and the rest of the day blocked. But I also frequently find myself bypassing the blocking still, therefore an argument for more unblocked time. 3. Delete all social media apps from phone. Since I try to not use any other device to access social media, including YouTube, this leaves me mostly with the only option to access these apps in the browser. A few apps, services you cannot access properly without logging in, among these Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and when not logged in, bombard you with pop-ups to log in now, download the app so we can eliminate your ability to long-term do things. What is left for me, more or less necessary also entertainment, is YouTube. I unfortunately read it in the wrong tonality. So what is left for me, more or less necessary also entertainment, is YouTube. And turns out you can access YouTube without logging in. 4. Use social media without login. This rules out many apps or makes them way less convenient to use. The addictive nature is mostly based on the app's services knowing what you want, or knowing what you might like, or knowing not necessarily what you want, but what you cannot stop looking at. Once you don't log in or use other ways to prevent personalization based on your IP address, your device's metadata, etc., ideally you are left with a totally unindividualized page. At least for YouTube, this works. In addition, you can use browser extensions to block feeds. Here, talking specifically about the YouTube feed, I use Unhook to block the YouTube feed and the comments and the suggestions on all devices, on all browsers, and also have a habit, at least in my habit tracker, of not reading, writing or replying to comments. This also prevents writing comments inefficiently on your phone, or then switching to your computer and writing an essay as a comment. Done a few times, then realized I could also have written a blog post. 6. Use alternative browsers on your phone. Turns out neither Samsung Internet nor Chrome for Android allow you to install browser extensions. What a shame. Now you can't install ad blockers on Samsung. You can add a few extensions, including ad blockers. But also every time you access, let's say, YouTube, you and your brain get bombarded with colorful, never-ending thumbnails and previews. I switched to Kiwi browser and deleted all other browsers on the phones. I think you can only disable Chrome though. On Windows, I use Chrome, Firefox and Edge. Most extensions I use come with all 3. This leaves you with having to remember and use your system too, the slower thinking based on Daniel Kahneman's book, to access content by searching for it, instead of scrolling and picking, following the dopamine. Once your phone is not that necessary anymore as payment device, I have a watch. Unfortunately, currently only works with some of my payment services. Music source, either on notebook with wireless headphones, though two devices and therefore unconnected audio streams are often better. Music experience on watch is still too suboptimal to be useful. Message device, email and WhatsApp on computer, despite WhatsApp on computer again is not really helpful. I use WhatsApp almost exclusively for private conversations, email for longer form or mostly not private ones. Almost no Facebook, Instagram or any kind of messaging tied to a social platform. Therefore again luring you back in. Camera, I do have a second phone as camera, in total 2 times the Galaxy S10, 2 times refurbished. I use one as mostly camera, one as phone. I try to not do things like going on adventures where I would need my phone one to capture, at first at least, private pictures, therefore phone one during the day. When I do it, it probably is not a work day. Then still, according to the blocking schedule, most apps are blocked. Banking. I use a multi-banking service. My current one is phone bound, but I am currently discussing switching to a cross-platform one. In the meanwhile, I actually already have since writing this blog post. I also tend to do banking, budgeting, tracking, wiring in the evening. Therefore, at least currently, not overlapping with my no phone time, ideally from morning to 6 p.m. You still need to eliminate the necessity of it as phone. The seemingly easy strategy here is avoiding phone calls at all costs. The last bastion of phone necessity is the ability to call and be called over the mobile network. Here are 2 strategies to also avoid this necessity. 1. Optimize your life for no phone calls, or at least during the day, let's say till 7 or 8 p.m. I often talk to friends in the evening, also often on the phone. Scheduling doctor appointments, etc. I try to do, if really necessary, over phone in the late afternoon, because I can otherwise not avoid it. 2. To be accessible for emergencies, medical or otherwise, I have my watch as an emergency phone, also with LTE and a number. This means I have, at least in theory, practically limited to battery life constraints and emergency phone with me at all times, an emergency phone at me at all times, apart from charging. That also strongly disincentivizes me to use it because it is so small, has compared to a computer or phone basically almost no useful input method, and I also have to unlock, have my arm raised or take it off to use it. 8. Turn off the color. On Android, you need to activate this function via USB debugging. I use an app called Grayscale. It is a little work to set up. Luckily, there are videos about it and also have my watch on Grayscale. There it is easier in the accessibility settings. And also, as of the last few months, it seems to be back at least on Samsung in the normal settings again. Turning off color has multiple effects. It creates a contrast between your work, computer in color, and your small gray phone. Therefore also creates a contrast between the actual real world, which therefore always, as long as turned on, is way more interesting, alone due to color compared to the digital world on your phone. Another argument for not allowing yourself to do entertainment on your computer. One way it could work potentially to also use your computer, let's say, watch YouTube or Netflix, is by changing the environment, thereby creating 2, one for work, one for entertainment. What works for me though is to not do that and instead go, at this point, multiple months, usually at a time, completely without any streaming service apart from YouTube. Anyway, to access movies, also no cinema. Last visit was 2.5 years ago. Once you remove the options for easy dopamine, your baseline dopamine resets. Huberman Lab on dopamine is inserted here as a link. And at least one, n equal 1, find the otherwise seemingly boring and hard things to be enjoyable. And at least I, not equal, so n equal to 1, so in studies the n is usually how many participants there are, and n equal to 1 is basically just me, find the otherwise seemingly boring and hard things more enjoyable. Also noteworthy, I tried watching movies, series also on my phone already, found myself really uninterested. Depends also on your general hormonal and neurological health. 9. Turn off notifications. Obviously, turn off as much as you can. I almost forgot to include this. This has become an absolute no-brainer for me. In case of emergency, you can still be called by your children, wife, mother, best friend, your doctor. For this scenario, giving these people your watch phone number might make sense. Or otherwise, have your phone inaccessible, but turned on. Therefore, also enabling, at least in Bluetooth range, conversations with your notebook or through your phone. Not through your phone, but through your notebook or your watch with your phone, basically. In my case, my phone 2 is usually at 100% charge since plugged in, and recently also got a SIM for it. This now means I have a complete backup phone, which in theory could obviously use to ruin all my systems. But through now years of trying to enforce the habit of using only one phone for entertainment, initially I had them both switched, but mostly due to banking, WhatsApp, I decided to switch them. Also due to battery life. If I used my main phone as camera, then not plugged in to film something, then there is the need to leave the house, for example, I would need to first charge it for an hour. 10. Use a dumb phone launcher. I first tried, then bought Minimalist Phone. That's the name of the app. It wasn't that much of a rational purchase, more a cry for help, and the help arrived. It also has somewhat of a blocker built in that allows you to block without bypasses. Haven't found any yet. Stage 1, hide apps. Stage 2, block apps for a certain period of time. The bypass is actually that you can use obviously another browser. Not browser, but launcher. Used it for example to again block site. Genius, one could say. Only problem, after the period of time is over, you would have to manually block everything again. Therefore, this only works as a one-time solution. So you block it one time for a certain time period, but you cannot set a certain frequency where it blocks it. Then you can turn it off, intentionally dislocate it, the phone. Ideally now, all your work, including what earns money, but also all other serious problem solving, also regarding private life, can be done with either your computer or your watch. You use your computer exclusively for work. You also not only realize, but also have systems in place, probably additional ones like tracking phone use, to disincentivize the things you do not want to do. High correlation with activities on phone due to design and the things you do want to do. Computer, ideally other dumb devices. Therefore, you now are ready for either the next stage of your life or to again tear all these systems down. About intentionally dislocating my phone. Objective, make phone 1 access harder, assuming reduction in access likelihood, assuming negative correlation of phone 1 usage and overall time effectiveness. Constraints, working, studying from home, still need to access phone at evening, also whenever leaving the house. Making your phone inaccessible. Time lock boxes to temporarily disable phone access. Emergency solution would be using brute force to break the box, its locking mechanism. Time locks or use another container, cupboard, etc. I use this one to sometimes lock my food away for TRF, time restricted feeding. So it's a time lock. App using your neighbor, potentially decreasing both your and the neighbor's productivity by introducing at least seemingly idiotic tasks. So you would give your neighbor your phone, for example. Or finally, intentionally dislocating your phone. I often do this before going to bed. Just put it in any drawer, cupboard, in between your clothes, etc. The more places I use or do not use laundry bag, so do not use laundry bag or trash, the less I seem to be able to remember the last one I used. Since my apartment and stuff is otherwise more on the organized side, also minimalistic side, I tend to still be able to find it in case of emergency. Wait, how tall is Chris Hemsworth again? Problems and Q&A. Once you install an app, you cannot block it on block site anymore. The only solution I found for this, to block phone settings during the day, which at least to some extent prevents uninstalling and reinstalling, or also App Store. But not really. What you need is a block this app from the source feature, block it in the App Store. But at least the Google Play Store does not offer such a functionality. Wonder why this is. Social media and its connection to mental health, there is a study linked here. For the cases in which I do really need color on my phone, using it to differentiate between, let's say, different options, I can still access the Grayscale app or even have a button in quick settings. But again, the quicker it is to change, the more likely the change is. But you also have to think about how to reset it. Because if it is very hard to reset it to grayscale, once you have it in color, then it makes it less likely that you will do. The reset, I think, should also be very fast, maybe a few seconds ideally, regarding or automatically happen at a certain period of time or at a certain time of the day. Regarding the continuous block of certain categories of a website, there is also another additional layer connecting to a VPN that blocks the kind of websites you want. Example, clean browsing. That's a company or an app or a service. Due to me somewhat posting to social media, I find the following. Avoiding feeds also on my computer is obviously necessary. But if Blocksite blocks the entire site, posting is somewhat difficult. On YouTube, for example, with YouTube Studio, I found the following. 1. If the work association of the computer is clear over time, I less and less think about, example, watching YouTube on my notebook. Sometimes I do search for videos to link site, etc., which is quite risky. 2. Limiting the platforms I post to ones with creator backends. That spares you from them trying to take as much time as possible from you. I had to learn the hard way the detrimental effect of having TikTok on my phone. Storing drafts is only locally, and using any kind of editing or effects, same with Instagram, means you need the app installed. Even with me trying to avoid something like this at all costs, I eventually found myself watching TikToks for hours through nights. Seemingly unable to close the app. Not reopen it after 10 seconds. For weeks, months, I tried to come up with a strategy to post to TikTok without having the app installed. I eventually deleted hundreds of videos, my drafts, decided to record from now on only with my phone camera and store video files locally instead of with the TikTok camera before. And at first, then only batch uploading them to TikTok, still on my phone. But after TikTok web upload was made accessible, I deleted the app. And at point of writing, this has been months without it even on my phone. What did it cost? Direct cost. The direct costs about 20 euros for a lifetime Blocksite purchase, about the same for a minimalist phone launcher. But not having a better system cost me thousands of hours. Problems with sharing content. Writing this, I several times thought it would make sense to insert a screenshot and pictures from my phone, but I couldn't find it. The phone. Possible because I intentionally dislocated it. Possible solutions for accessing pictures, screenshots from your phone. Option 1. Leave it turned on but inaccessible and use something like Windows Phone Link to still have access to recent screenshots and photos. This also could be a more general solution. You can also call with your computer and open apps, but every now and then you also need to unlock your phone, confirm something. 2. In an appropriate interval, move all screenshots, photos manually to your computer or hard drives, cloud. Regarding 2FA, two-factor authentication, I currently have still a few 2FAs activated on phone 1. Some password managers offer you also to act as a 2FA service. I also could transfer all to phone 1. No, I could also transfer all these authentications to phone 2. If connected over phone link, you can get the ones via SMS on your computer as notifications or just in general access your phone messages. Regarding no automated feeds, of course I daily miss out on discovering new ideas, people, channels, content, books by not letting the algorithms replace part of my information inflow. But what is the net benefit? What is a net benefit more useful? Enjoying things like working, studying, writing, sometimes even looking forward to go to the gym or getting the outdoor recommendations, but also reducing yourself at least temporarily into a consumption machine. In my case, binging Netflix for days, skipping workouts, sleep, only to find myself weeks later having regressed in almost every part of my life. Having my brain still thinking for hours, days, weeks about what I watched. The recent streaming binge session was a few months back. Having eroded months of programming progress in terms of automating tasks like strength training, mostly to System 1. Therefore, not only having missed out on absolute progress of any kind, but also having regressed to a much lower, probably negative rate of progress, second derivative of absolute progress. Working out with music. In the past, I tried to make things work without a phone. Also due to the benefit of only having to carry a towel into the gym. Currently, I have 1. Tried music alternatives like Endel, which unfortunately usually don't have, so these services often don't have a standalone app. Endel has, but it only works with internet, I think. Wear OS Galaxy Watch 4. I tried working out, at least in the gym, with earplugs, at least till maybe adapted to the lower stimuli environment. Also due to contact sound on breathing, etc., louder, workout intensity seemingly negatively impacted. 3. Recently quit Spotify after years of using it due to them introducing video podcasts, therefore need to block outside 9 to 11 p.m., which means during workout time, 6 to 7 p.m., Spotify was blocked, therefore unable to use. Spotify actually in the recent weeks updated their UI, their user interface again, and it now is more similar to TikTok. 4. Regarding endurance training. Currently I, on the remaining 4 not strength training days, I run, cycle, additional gym workout, calisthenics, and on Sunday climb, skate, parkour, swim on weekly rotation. I see the 4 days of the week as endurance. I usually do not listen to music on these days due to multiple reasons. During cycling, I usually listen to podcasts or audiobooks. So again, I need my phone. 5. Music streaming on watch. Due to watch latency on Spotify, even though Spotify on my watch, it's on my watch, on the Galaxy Watch 4 is a standalone app, it is practically unusable. After waiting for 1 to 3 minutes again and again in the gym, which for a 30 to 40 minutes workout might be 10% loss of time, I quit trying to make this work. 6. Currently, I do have my phone with me at the gym. I also tried workout tracking while working out, sets, reps, but found it to decrease my efficiency too much. Therefore, track it currently after based on memory. I currently either listen to SoundCloud and or use earplugs. Actually, since writing this, I transitioned to just wearing earplugs in the gym. I also now do have a Garmin Fenix 6S, which is somewhat able to track repetitions and sets at the gym. So I kind of have a predefined routine at the gym, and then I can ideally track it. But of course, you don't always go exactly according to the plan, and I still need to figure this out. But I do not listen to any music in the gym anymore, and I seemingly have adapted also in terms of intensity. One other thing I'd like to mention is that there is something called focus mode, at least on Android. I think Apple has something similar, and this focus mode is kind of the thing I'm actually searching for, or these are the things you're missing out with BlockSight. So on BlockSight, the main problem is that you do not have an automatic reset option. With Samsung, on the other hand, so with the routines, you can set up Bixby routines that then automatically turn on focus mode during certain times, during your work times, for example, and then you can set certain apps that then are blocked. The focus mode is kind of easily bypassable, you could say, by just ending the focus mode, but again, very nicely made. After, I think, 20 minutes, it resets it again to work mode. So if during the day you want to open up Instagram, after like 20 minutes, it just closes the browser, in my case, because I only can access Instagram in the browser, and then it puts your phone into work mode again. So this might be potentially the better option. Maybe using a system of BlockSight as well as the focus mode is the one thing that would be working, and I am still kind of experimenting with this.